which logs a positive sentiment score of 34%, and you'll notice 0 for the remaining categories. Meanwhile, Heartbreak Hotel by Elvis is pretty negative, with 12.2% negative, 11.6% sadness, and a 2.7% positive emotion. Now, taken alone, these percentages might seem a little bit smaller and insignificant, but the reason for that is that most words in the English language that are most commonly used tend to be words that don't have any sentiment score, such as the, of, and, his, her, etc. Where this becomes interesting is when you are able to look at the results across a wide breadth of works, such as the news. Since Sentimentalist lives online and targets online users, it will rely on the vast resources of the web to connect to new users. The site features a share button, which with one click, the user is able to spread the word about Loop through various social networking avenues. And the Sentimentalist add-on utility will allow users to incorporate this new way of thinking about the news into their daily news grazing habits. So for example, a user that visits the New York Times every day will be reminded of the sentiment value expressed in a news story and the breadth of news coverage every time he or she hovers over a headline. Sentimentalist 2.0 will explore smartphone technologies as well as, of course, an application for the iPad. So in the end, the aim of Sentimentalist is to get you interested enough to click on a news story that you wouldn't otherwise read, so that we can arrive at our own well-informed thoughts and perspectives on the world around us. With Sentimentalist, it's no longer just about this, or this, or this, but about this. Thank you.
You wrangled it. You wrangled it. Thank you very much. So it's exciting to see you learn how to start talking about this in a way that can really connect with the audience and contextualize it using the songs, which is really clever. What I'm curious about is how do you identify the publications that you're analyzing, and how do you sort of weight them when you end up having to compare something like the New York Times, something like that Zimbabwe news you were showing us, knowing how many readers and how much exposure each story is getting?
On my view, well, first of all, relying on Google News as the filter or the feed for all of the news sources is one way of handling that in terms of if they think it's worth, they have a very smart aggregating system, and if it appears on their site, then it's worth reading. The other point is that, for example, New York, my goal is not to rate the publications as far as best, worst, or most valuable. I mean, if anybody's reading any of the news, then then it's worth commenting on as far as, because it's reaching people and it's affecting people. So I'm not here to rate Newsday versus Daily Post versus the New York Times. It's valid news if it's printed or appears online.
Is there any way to know how many eyeballs each newspaper is getting?
That is not incorporated into the site, but yeah, that would be something interesting to explore.
So, do we have any questions out here?
Does the application apply to every news source? Does it go in and analyze everything?
Do you mean the add-on utility?
Yeah, the add-on.
To be honest, that would require a lot of funding to develop that, so this is just a prototype for the future, but the intention is that, yes, any news site that the user visits will, a pop-up window will appear in the analysis of all of that coverage.
Really far back.
Thanks. I'm just curious, it's such an intriguing application. Have you thought about more than news sources, like say transcriptions of conversations or things like that could be interested in utilizing this?
So the question was, are we thinking about applying this to text other than newspapers? So interviews,
I think for the scope of Sentimentalist, it's just a matter of commenting on the different perspectives that we receive through news, but sentiment analysis as a field is pretty, it's in its infancy right now, and currently the technology and the algorithms are being applied to marketing strategies. It would be interesting to look at other texts like text messages, as you mentioned, or things like that. Yes, but for the scope of Sentimentalist, I think we're keeping it at news.
Do you attempt to distinguish between sloppy reporting and low sentiment, and excellent reporting and high sentiment?
Okay. My intention for this tool is to remain as objective as possible. So no, I'm not making any judgments about varying publications or the way that they're reported on. The objectivity remains in the fact that it's the same algorithm being applied to across a wide spectrum of text.
And where are you in the development right now? How soon does this go online?
It's live right now as a prototype. The key thing that we're still working out is the feed of all of the text into the site. So it's what you saw today was a prototype of the manually applied data.
And what, in your mind, is true success of this? What do you want the impact of this to be?
Well, going forward, I think, firstly, as far as partnerships and seeking funding, I am going to contact media literacy organizations and go in that vein. I see it as an arm of media literacy, really. But beyond that, I think, or maybe not beyond that, but in addition, it's sort of just an intriguing tool to get us to start thinking about news and the way we consume news, especially in this day and age where most of us are getting, or a lot of us are getting our information online, and it's merely an issue of headline skimming. So to add this level of examination to what we're looking at, I think is a helpful tool. So
thank you very much.